voice of growth, mastering the mind and market.
Wellness is beautiful. All of it goes back to health. It's a way to biooptimize. We keep you functioning better, longer. I don't like that he said that, but he's right. When you cut corners, you're only cheating yourself. If I truly, truly give the best of myself and truly care about that person and they get well, that's all that matters. And that hit me like a bah.
Dr. Bernal.
Yes.
Why is wellness so important to you?
Wellness is important to me because it's a comprehensive approach to health. It's not just no pain. It's not just no stress. It's a matter of optimum function. That's wellness. And I think no matter what we're talking about, whether it's a person, a machine, an animal, if there's optimal function, there's beauty in that. So there's beauty in wellness. Wellness is beautiful.
So with that, if wellness is beautiful, what led you to see beauty in it? I mean, you didn't just wake up one day and think, wow, this is my thing, or what was it for you?
You know what? I think what it is, I got to give a ton of credit to my parents, my dad. My dad, ever since I was, as far back as I can remember, has taught me to not just look for beauty in things, but to truly appreciate it. I can think of tons of examples where my dad said, mira, cómo está la pared. And I would look at the wall and I'd say, okay, yeah, it's pretty straight or whatever. Or like metal structures. My dad's a multi-talented individual. He welds and everything. So we would inspect the corners of metal where it was put together. Again, my dad is also very much an appreciator of human beauty. So whenever we would see a beautiful young lady or something, he would say, wow, qué bonita, or whatever. And so all those moments were accumulating to form a true appreciation for beauty. In addition to just physical, in actions too. My dad would tell me, that person, the way they acted, no bueno. Or did you see that generosity, or this person, or blah, 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 blah. And although we grew up very, very humble, very poor in my early beginnings, my dad always would get school supplies and go donate them to schools. He instilled a lot of very important values that I think were instrumental in me getting to that appreciation of beauty and structure and function. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, what's interesting about you saying that is coming from a very similar culture. You know, I grew up in a border town.
Douglas, yes.
Both my parents were born in Mexico. My father passed away when I was very young, but I was raised by my grandparents as well. So there's a certain appreciation to that, and there's a certain work ethic, which I want to come back to, because I know you work extremely hard.
Thank you.
Extremely smart. And I think the appreciation for beauty and sharing of that beauty with other people is something that we're missing today in a greater scale. I do the same thing with my kids, and they react the same way you did and I did when we were kids, like, okay, whatever. But I see them slowly starting to mature so that now they're recognizing those same things. There's beauty in the creation of physical objects.
Correct.
We were talking about the sculptures I have behind me, and we were appreciating talking about that. But there's also beauty in creating this between us right now in this podcast, and you opening up, sharing your story. There's beauty in healing. I had a moment when I went to you, 3 months ago?
Something like that, yes.
When I was in a bad spot because I was moving to a new house, and I basically threw my back out, and you were instrumental in me healing. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
Tell me, in your 25, 30-year career?
Just about, yeah. Almost, it's 27 to be exact.
You spent the majority of that as a chiropractor. Correct. And you have shifted now into doing more progressive techniques, stretching, cryotherapy.
Correct.
Tell me why those things are so important, especially remembering our audience. Our audience is entrepreneurs, business leaders, people that are hard drivers, people that are looking to get an edge. Why is it important for them to understand what you do?
Well, it's definitely important because of the value and the investment that you make with assisted stretch therapy or clinics such as ours, MueveFlex. Because just like any other business, there's going to be different categories in the same field. With MueveFlex and the stretch clinic and having, say, the assisted stretch therapy with the vast expertise and the truly holistic philosophy that we apply, there's such a value for entrepreneurs, for executives, for business owners, that whenever they invest in themselves, they not only feel better, but they function better. They're more productive. I'm sure you're familiar with the concepts of, like, for example, President Barack Obama had like 22 of the same suit. Exactly the same one, 22 of them. Zuckerberg and the former CEO of Apple, they wore the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Because our bodies and our brains have a limited amount of brain power. So either you use that brain power to create new ideas to be your most productive, or you use it to deal with, oh my gosh, how do I sit so my back doesn't ache? Or, oh my gosh, how do I, get this email replied without feeling that burning in my shoulder?
Right.
So that's how it's super valuable and super effective for all the audience of Profectory, because it's priceless, really.
It is. There's that term that, and I'm going to see if I can remember correctly how it works regarding health.
Okay.
And if you remember what I'm talking about, fill me in.
Yes, sir.
When you have your health, you have 10,000 problems, right? When you have bad health, you have one.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about that statement?
I agree with it 100%, and I think it's a key. And another gentleman that I'm sure you and I both have read and look up to, Mr. Anthony Robbins, mentions the idea of perspective. If you think you have a lot of problems, wait till you lose your job. And I know that in previous podcasts you've mentioned how certain things have happened and some of the shifts that you had to go through, where you had to you were up on that upper echelon and had to work your way back up, and that's very admirable. Well, the thing is, the same thing happens when people say, oh, your job maybe is terrible or it's tough to deal with, and so it's such a big problem, until you have problems at home with your spouse. All of a sudden, the job doesn't even matter that much. And so all of it goes back to health, because there's another saying that you might have heard, or like a storyline, where people say they spend all their life working to accumulate assets, and they lose their health. And then the last part of their life, they spend all their assets trying to recuperate that health. And so at MueveFlex, what we do, our team tries to prevent that from happening. We want to make sure that we keep you functioning better, longer. That's our goal.
That's really admirable. Yeah, I really ascribe to the idea, as we evolve as adults and we learn from experiences, is definitely the biggest teacher. Personal experiences, then shared experiences, then experiences we see in other people, which can come in the form of books and podcasts and videos and all that. One of the big takeaways that I've taken away, as a younger man, I lived a lot in the future. I lived a lot in the future. Oh, when ... when this happens, when that happens. And it took me a lot of inner work to bring my perspective back to center. And I have gone backwards too, where you live in the past a little bit, where you think, well, back when this happened, I was this way. And you kind of swing back and forth. In your personal practice, how do you manage your own stress? How do you manage both carrying on this legacy of what you've done, but also building into a future where, I mean, your future is so bright. How do you manage living the day to day?
Well, thank you for those kind words. I'm very flattered, and I appreciate that, because it has been a long and arduous journey. I mean, it's been some tough battles, and yes, some really, really painful experiences, huge, valuable, and expensive lessons that I've had to undergo. But I always tell people, hey, look, you know what? You know, in Spanish we say it, yo también tengo mi corazoncito. You know, I need care too. So I think one of the best ways to describe it is this. Every single day, I do something for self-care. Every single day, self-care, some form of it, whether it's exercise, whether it's meditation, whether it's going to a stretch therapist myself, or sometimes in our office, we treat each other. Whether it's utilizing chiropractors or massage therapists sometimes too. Definitely do a lot of nutritional research and counseling, because I think that's critical, especially right now when you think something is so safe and then you get the bad news that, oh my gosh, that wasn't so safe.
Right, yeah.
So it's hard staying on the vanguard and on the cutting edge of what's really good. But that's how I do it, making sure that I, at least in wellness, lead by example, and really in most aspects of my life. I'd like to, again, credit my kids for that, because I think that a lot of the lessons that my mom and dad taught me, it's now that I have kids that I see, oh my gosh, I have to watch my mouth, because my kids start kind of talking in a certain way. And I think to myself, how can I tell them, hey, you know, what's your language, when, you know, I'm dropping F-bombs, and I'm embarrassed to admit that. But again, I think that's the way. I want to make sure that I don't just give advice, but take my own advice.
Right.
And so that's the way I do it. I think that's the way I maintain. And a second way is, and I love how you mentioned legacy, because that's one of my current goals. And I want to make sure that as I reach what I think is like the peak of my professional career and professional mastery, I want to make sure that I pass the torch. I want to make sure that I teach. One of the current kind of little known goals of Dr. Bernal and MueveFlex is that we want to do assisted stretch therapy training. So we train other people to do this kind of work. However, not just like some of the other stretch therapy, you know, franchises, which are very good. I would never want to speak ill of any other business or person, but I think we all have our strengths. Mm-hmm. And our strength is the individualized attention, the specially catered approach, where we don't just say, okay, we're going to do a stretch on you, blam, 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 upper back, lower back, or arms, legs, and that's it. Where we say, tell us about what's going on. How are you sleeping? And you may recall from when we had your consultation, tell us about how you're eating. Tell us about your energy level and your overall mood. How's it going? What's happening? And we'll find out about things, because people sometimes tell us, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I just got a raise, I got a promotion, or I just got a beautiful new house. And we explain to them, getting a beautiful new house on the stress level scale ranks up there with having lost a loved one. When you lose a loved one, there's so much stress, and it's the same amount of stress when you get a new house, even if it's a beautiful new house.
Yeah, exactly.
So people don't realize that, but our experience is critical in helping those people navigate through that stressful time. And so that's what I want to do in terms of maintaining and passing on that legacy, so that more people can feel well and so they can, you know, function at a higher level.
No, I love that. And part of the beauty, and maybe a little bit of a curse too, of social media mm-hmm. and all this stuff online, things to do with wellness and health. There's so much out there online, right? You hear about the fully carnivore diet, then you hear about the vegan diet, then you hear about this, and you hear about, you know, vitamin D this, and there's so much noise out there.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you're really looking at a holistic wellness approach. there's so much power behind the mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a mind's ability to cure itself. I have seen people that I respect very much make themselves sick from just stress.
Yes.
And I think the fact that you're doing this is really very, very admirable. But I like also how you're creating a reach for your clients. And during the pre-meeting, we talked about this concept of an industrial athlete.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, let me tell you, when I practiced as a chiropractor, one of my certifications, I received my certification as a sports physician. So as a sports physician, I got a chance to work with many, many athletes, some world class, some professional, and in different sports, baseball, track and field, football, some basketball. And it was wonderful. But then what I realized, and it kind of was just literally like a light bulb went on. And I said, you know what? I'm taking care of Mr. Contreras over here. And he's a carpenter. And he's doing very similar movements that this CrossFit competitor is. They bend down, pick up. They constantly, move. And they're working with resistance. And so I told this gentleman, and I started telling all my clients, I said, you know what, here's the deal. I want you to think of yourself like an athlete, because that's how I'm taking care of you. And I said, who's your favorite team? And they say, oh, the Cowboys or the Phoenix Suns, whatever. I said, okay, perfect. Have you seen what they do before a game? Well, yeah, of course. They put on their jogging suit and they're running around the basketball court and they're doing all these exercises. They sit on their butt and they're stretching to touch their toes. I said, they have a warm-up. And I said, and have you seen kind of like before those interviews or during those interviews, they have, after the game, they took off their uniform and they have this like ice pack, or they have somebody like rubbing on him or doing some work on him. Well, yeah, that's the athletic trainer. I said, exactly. But now think about it for yourself. What do you do in the morning when you get up to go to the construction site? Tell me about your warm-up. Oh, that's silly. I get up, drink some coffee, have a, little bit of breakfast, get my work boots and get out of the house. I just put on my work gear. Mm-hmm. And I said, but aren't you doing similar movements? Yeah, I do more sometimes. I go upstairs. I'm like, oh, interesting. And I said, well, what about after? At the end of the day, what do you do? Oh, well, nothing. I just get home and I get on the couch and just relax. I'm tired. I said, exactly. So what we're going to do now is I said, think, for example, that professional athlete, they have an off season. They have spring training. They have all these things. What is your off season? And they look at me like I'm crazy and they say, I have no off season. I work year round. Exactly. I said, exactly. I said, so we're going to work with you. So if those guys need it, imagine about you. And so, we started implementing certain things like a proper warm-up, a proper cool-down. Compared to many of my other clinical counterparts, I wouldn't just do work in the office and send them off. I would, talk to them and say, okay, tell me what you're doing before your work shift. Tell me what you did afterwards. And here's some specific movements that I want you to do so that my work lasts a little longer. And so that concept of the industrial athlete was born, and I've used it ever since, probably for the last 15 years. And we even use it now at MueveFlex with a lot of our, some, C-level executives, to our front desk, warriors, because some of those people at the front desk are the ones that have to take they have to take all the incoming traffic and all the stress or whatever. So it can be tough. And, everybody in between. Like, for example, this morning I saw a young lady that works at a local hospital who is a surgical tech. And she said, my gosh, you know what? I'm super uptight in the shoulders, a lot of issues personal with the family right now. And because of being short-staffed or whatever, I had to work 7 days straight, full, and sometimes double shifts or extra shifts, extra hours for 7 days. So I'm just a mess. And I told her, yeah, exactly. We need to get to work. And so again, those things are going to happen. Just like, for example, in the recent World Series where a certain game went to 18 innings or whatever, which is crazy. But again, I promise you, those guys had their recovery team right afterwards taking care of them. So thank God this young lady that works at a local hospital doing surgeries or assisting in the surgeries has us. So we were that team to get her to recover.
Yeah, that's magic, man. That's for sure something that's needed. You know, what I tell folks that I work with that are at the higher levels in mindset, they are killing it at work. They're killing it at home. Of course, there's ups and downs, but they want to do better. Every day is a challenge to do better for themselves, for their family, for their business. I think having your health in order and I mean, there's a term now that's being used, biohacking.
Okay, yeah.
Right. I don't know if there's some things about that I appreciate. There's things I don't.
Yeah.
But I think generally a wellness and health mindset. And I love the idea of having the concept of a coach.
Absolutely.
A business coach, whether it's business coach, whether it's friends that you meet on a regular basis for some level of coaching, whether it's your board of directors, either a formal or informal. You know, we have friends that we say, you know, I'm dealing with this at the office. I think a full complement is necessary, and also a lot of downtime. You know, I practice stillness, I practice meditation, for me, it's been a huge mover, and it's the weirdest thing. And you know this because you meditate. When you slow down, you think you're going to slow down the rest of your life, but all you're really doing is you're giving that rest that will have you performing at a higher level the next day or the next time you put those gloves on, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem with that, Manny, is that we're bombarded. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I love economy and progress, and I think that there's a lot of merit to that. However, I do believe we have to make common sense a little bit more common. We have to go back to some basic important things. For example, let's face it. Imagine if you and I were selling, I don't know, fancy clothes to Buddhists. It would be a tough time, you know? And so I get it that we constantly want to be, current and sort of keep up with the Joneses. And I think there's a merit to that. Don't misunderstand me. I'm a fierce competitor in many aspects. At the same time, I've grown and learned that I want quality, not just quantity in everything. And so, for example, I think that instead of biohacking, I think of hacking as like hacking into a computer or like taking a shortcut. One of my biggest mentors in life, probably second to my dad, is my high school wrestling coach, who I love. And this gentleman, Augie, taught us, he said, when you cut corners, you're only cheating yourself. And he would tell us a lot of phrases that I still remember. It's kind of funny because it's like 50 years later. But he would tell us, are you a pretender or are you a contender? And so those things stuck with me. So when I hear biohacking, I'm immediately putting up my guard. However, if somebody tells me, how do we optimize? Let's do bio-optimizing. Okay, talk to me. I'm listening. My ears perk up and I'm thinking, okay, what is it? And yes, I think that if we bio-optimize and if we really look closely, like what can we do? For example, MueveFlex, it's a way to bio-optimize. It's not necessarily a hack. It's an optimization. You know, we want to make sure that, as you mentioned earlier, how can, entrepreneurs and some of your, biggest followers and viewers and listeners, what can they get out of this? Well, what they can get out of is more productivity, less, aches and pains, more focus on your current task, more free mind space, more bandwidth to be creative and think of ways to maximize your professional prowess, so to say.
I love that. Maximize your professional prowess.
Yeah.
Dr. Bernal.
Yes.
Are you AI proof?
When you say AI proof, I love that question. And again, that's what I teach my current team and my son Fermin, who's my little protege, and I'm trying to instill in him as much as I possibly can. And I tell him, here's the deal. Let's say accounting. You can probably get some app or get some AI bot to, do your accounting. Let's say, I don't know, even getting your groceries. There's literally AI bots. You can tell them, this is what I need. It'll keep track of what you've used or whatever. There's like cameras inside our fridges now. I have one of those. and it can tell you, hey, you're running out of milk, so we're going to order it through the Safeway app or whatever, and it'll be delivered at your house. Sometimes they'll even bring it all the way into your fridge. So that's awesome. But my question is, how in the heck is an AI bot going to assess your level of relaxation or muscle spasms? And in addition to that, be able to stretch your joint right up to the point of anatomic integrity or the end range of motion, and then instruct you to say, okay, I contract here a little bit, push against me. Now take a deep breath, because that breathing is essential. When you take a certain deep breath, and there's a point when we want to focus on that fascia, the myofascial fibrous network, where a deep breath and exhalation really opens that up. And it re-educates. It teaches your muscle to go back to its normal, natural length, thereby optimizing its function. And your body relearns that. It wants to feel good. It doesn't want to be in protect mode.
Yeah.
So am I AI proof? I don't want to say yes for sure, because I did see this machine, which kind of excited me and freaked me out a little bit. They have this Asian person who said, oh, we've come up with a massage, literally a massage robot. So a person lays down, and this machine has like, not tentacles, but like rotating foam that like goes up and down the spine and on the shoulders, and it like, squeezes a little bit. And all I could think of was, I'm sure you've seen some of these AI robots that go haywire. Yeah. You've seen them, right? Where the robot's like this, and it's supposed to do something, and it goes crazy, and it's like, people are dodging or whatever. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what if this like massage robot is trying to do something, and it like, I wouldn't want to be the tester for that prototype. But, I guess a short answer is, I think we are AI proof. Especially with our philosophy, with the way that we do it, we are AI proof.
All right. I have a question that I ask all my guests. If I was to pull up my phone, my magic phone here, dial a number, hand you the phone, and it's Jesús Bernal at 18 years old, what would you tell yourself at 18 years old?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. I've heard something similar to that. And I think the most important thing I would say is be a little bit more open-minded. Yes, you're very knowledgeable. Yes, you're very confident. But sometimes that confidence will get you in trouble. And yes, you're an avid learner, but maybe listen a little more and talk less. That's what I would say to my 18-year-old self. And as a final note, I would probably say something like, by the way, stop carrying that emotional baggage. Everybody has a rough childhood. You weren't the only one. And use it as a stepping stone, as a catapult to launch you, because there might be other people that suffered the same or more when they were younger. And if they see you and they hear your story, they might be motivated to do more themselves. That's what I would say.
That's powerful. Yeah, mental health is kind of crazy. When I was
no pun intended.
Yeah, maybe pun intended. But when I was my first year of college, I kind of had. I was either going to do engineering,
Mm-hmm.
or believe it or not, I really liked the idea of psychology, which is now I can't imagine. But at the time, I thought it was really interesting because I saw so much power in the mind and understanding that. And what's kind of funny is, fast forward 30 some odd years, I'm now studying it from a different angle. But the whole idea here is that you're right. We carry around baggage. And if you have a buddy who's going through a rough time, maybe an extended rough time, and they are doing all the things, they're going to therapy, maybe there's some chemical imbalance happening there, and it's frustrating for me to not just say, okay, get out of that and just move forward. There's so much underneath the surface. And, I've seen it play out on both sides. I've seen people that have terrible childhoods or terrible experiences. They have lost loved ones in tragic situations, and they've had their moments when they've sort of gone to dark places, but then they emerge stronger than before, and even carrying a message of, I hear you and I survived, and now I'm carrying this forward, whatever that might be, that mission that they've developed through that heartache. See that?
I definitely see that, and I couldn't agree more. I can definitely see the traces of the psychoanalytic tendencies that you have, and I think that's what makes you such an interesting person and so easy to conversate with, because you can tell that you truly are interested about, like, well, what makes you think that way, or tell me more about how that came about. And those are questions that most people, and I'm sad to say, they don't care. Maybe they're just, so busy, or they're just not wired that way. Yeah. But and you were right. When before we started, you said, I think we vibe together.
Oh yeah.
We have that same inner intention. We care.
We care, and we want the best for the world.
Absolutely. And we want it whether it's with us or not. I tell people all the time, look, I provide this wellness service. I provide these stretch therapies and, even new technologies, but I'm not the only one. And the most important thing is not if you go to Bernal or not. The most important thing is, did you take care of yourself? I really care about that. And I like to tell a story about one particular client who I tried. I did everything I possibly could. And I said, look, we're trying our best. This situation is out of control. We need to make sure we do some more assessments. I need to, channel you through the proper providers. Sure enough, there was advanced damage. I mentioned anatomical integrity earlier. Once you surpass the integrity or the wholeness of the anatomy, you need more invasive help. So this gentleman actually needed like back surgery. And I was so sad. I was like down on myself. And I ran into him. I'm not sure if it was a community event or something. And I think he could tell, because I kind of put my hand out. I said, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Sorry we couldn't help you. And he said, sorry you couldn't help me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gone to that surgeon. He said, if I didn't go then, it would have been, I would have not been able to walk or some other things. So yeah. The guy was like totally grateful. And I learned that it doesn't have to be me directly helping you or helping the person. It's a matter of if I truly, truly give the best of myself and truly care about that person and they get well, that's all that matters. And it happens to be that a lot of people pass by dozens of clinics, if not more. My latest story about that is I had a lady who comes in from like way north Oro Valley, and I guess her husband and her had a little tiff, and the husband said, well, there's a bunch of other stretch clinics on the way over there. Why do you have to go to the south side? Mm-hmm. It takes you 40 minutes to get there. And she said, yes, there's a lot of others, but none of the others do the treatment or take care of me so completely like they do at MueveFlex. So that was like the highlight of my day that day. Super, super happy. And yes, of course, that's wonderful. And I love those stories, but not everybody can afford to do that. Some people say, look, I don't have time. I have kids. I need to be seen on the east side of town or blah, blah, blah. Can you help me find somebody near me? And we always find somebody nearby to them if that's what they need.
Yeah, I think that really stems from, if you really boil it down, its strength comes from gratitude. gratitude. Gratitude is one of these things that we think we understand. Kind of two sides, both receiving and giving, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you give something, you receive something as well.
True.
At least people like us are wired that way.
Yes.
And most people are wired that way. There's some that are maybe sociopathic that are not. But gratitude is something that should be practiced both ways. So I'm, thankful for this opportunity to be here with you. I'm thankful for the lessons, the hard lessons that I've had to bear. Again, going back to the past future conversation we had earlier, I really celebrate, as hard as it feels, a lot of my biggest failures. And it hurts to go back sometimes in those places, and you have to be careful not to fall off the edge, because you can go down in deep places.
Yes.
But
yes.
I routinely, usually it's accidentally, I see a picture pop up on my phone, or I see something, that reminds me of a person or an individual or a circumstance. And rather than ignore it like I used to and just, plow forward, and because that goes down and it sort of settles and it festers and it comes back later like a mushroom patch, and not a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I instead just take the moment and just embrace the totality of like, okay, that was a beautiful time in my life. Is also not so beautiful because of these certain things. And okay, great. I just purge it through. Okay, I've got that same phone.
Okay.
I'm going to take it back from you. I'm going to dial a different number.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be you at 75 years old.
Oh, wow.
What would you, rather than tell the person, who would you ask your 75-year-old self?
Now that's a question I've never heard before, but I love it. I love it, love it. I ask my clients sometimes. People get really tense as I'm trying to work on them. And I'm like, think of something else. And they're like, I'm just, in pain, or I'm stressed. So I tell them, let's say you're an old person, and, you have to leave your three most important concepts of life, or your three best bits of advice. What would you advise people, whatever? So I love the fact that I get to ask.
Yeah, what are you going to ask yourself?
So as I picture my 75-year-old self, I see a strong, well-abled, healthy individual that is now not only had reached his peak of professional mastery, but now maximized wisdom. And so I think I would ask him, hey, tell me now, help me discern what to overlook and what to really focus on and work on. And again, I'm going to be a little vain here, but for the majority of my life, I've had a six-pack, and I love it. I love staying in shape. And my six-pack is not that obvious anymore. My son makes fun of me. And sometimes we go to the gym or we work out, and he says to me, all right, Dad, we get it. You used to have a six-pack. It's in there somewhere. Ha, ha, ha. So we laugh, right? But I think that's one of the things that I've learned lately is that, hey, I don't walk around with my shirt off that much anymore. I don't care so much about my six-pack as much as I care about my ability to be able to help somebody in a time of need. I always like to say this, and one of my favorite authors says this. If, for example, you know that you're at a good position physically, if, God forbid, there's an emergency and it's your job to take the people there, carry them to safety, could I do that? 100%. 99% of the time, I can do that. And I guess, yes, with the obesity epidemic, it might be a little bit tougher on me right now to say everywhere. That's why I say 99%. But God forbid, if there was an emergency here during the podcast and, something would happen, I have to carry you, I am confident and I know for a fact I could carry you to safety.
Just drag me.
No. And could I, move something heavy off of you if something fell on you? Of course. Could I climb out of, a place if we were trapped? Absolutely. So that's my focus. And so I would ask that 75-year-old Dr. Bernal, help me, tell me what to overlook. How do I discern between things that don't matter that much and things that are super important? In addition to that, I would say, please tell me, now that you're 75, what are the things that I should maybe invest more of my money on. I know that I have little vices, and I love technology, and I love certain things, but I realize that some of those, expenses were more of a waste of money than a positive use. And yes, there's that little emotional, dopamine rush that you get when you get it. Thank God I no longer buy motorcycles. There was a time when I had multiple motorcycles.
Really?
And it was fun. I loved quads. I loved, my, what we call crotch rockets, the sport bikes. I've had, a Ninja, a CBR, and so that was a lot of fun. But in retrospect, and Carla, who my sister, will tell you, because she was with me when I went and purchased one of those motorcycles. I literally went to the showroom and I said, I want that one. And I was doing very well. And I was able to, ride out a very, very beautiful motorcycle. That was a lot of fun. But again, in retrospect, I think, and I'm like, you know what? I didn't really need to do that. And the rush and the excitement was short-lived. So I would ask that 75-year-old, tell me where to focus more of my money. Tell me where to focus more of my attention, and what do I improve, what do I work on, and what do I overlook?
Yeah.
That's what I would ask.
Yeah, there's a lot of power to that, man. There's a lot of power. And the crazy thing is we have that question we can ask literally every day of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I do a version of that. I mean, the number changes. 75, is it 60, is it 90? I mean, my Nana's going to be 94 in a couple months.
Congratulations.
And
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, Nana, you have to make it to 100. Because not only, first of all, for you, because you are a beautiful person and I want us to be able to share in life with you in it. But also, your genes are my genes, at least part.
Of course.
So I want that longevity, because on my other side of the family, we have a lot of longevity. So I'm very, very proud of that. As a final question or a final thought to share with our audience, what other advice would you have for a young business leader, a young entrepreneur that is sort of swinging for the fences, getting beat down, getting shot by, people that are trying to be, because there's a lot of that in the background, people that are trying to beat people down or bring it isn't always up front.
Mm-hmm.
If you've read it, the 48 Laws of Power,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of Machiavellian kind of people out there. And what would you tell that person that's just living life, but has a big dream and wants to make a mark in this world?
Wow. I love this question. And again, I have, I have so much to say about that, but I'll try to, narrow it down a little bit. Number one, I would say, be patient. Be patient and be persistent. Persevere. There's gonna be, I would say there's going to be in your climb upward, there's going to be some pitfalls. Climb out of those pitfalls and go back down. And again, I really enjoyed that podcast where you talked about what is it? Terra something. What was it called? Or As Terra? As Terra. When you mentioned that, I was really moved by that because again, and let me tell you what I liked. Although you didn't say any bad words, and again, I confess that sometimes the podcasts that I listen to or some of the people that I follow online are the ones that are more direct and sometimes a little bit vulgar. I'm not saying that's okay, but I relate to it. And so one of the things that you said that I didn't like, but I was like, gosh darn it, I don't like that he said that, but he's right. And you said something like, you know what? Don't dwell on the problem. Don't beat yourself up, but sit in the filth. And that hit me like a bah. And I thought to myself, that's true. And I love how you said it too. You said that at first you were blaming the market. You were blaming this, blaming that, whether I did X, Y, Z or whatever. But regardless, this is what it is. And sit in the filth. You made the mistakes. Take responsibility and move forward. Oh my gosh, that's gold. That's gold. It's just, I love you for saying that because not only did I need to hear that, but so many people need to hear that. And so I would say something like that to a young, strapping entrepreneur that's just swinging for the fences and, they're, wanting to do so much, I would say, believe it or not, some of your biggest pitfalls are going to be some of your most valuable lessons. Some of the toughest times are going to be the ones you appreciate the most. And I would say make self-care a integral key part of your success. Every successful person needs to take care of their health. They need to take care of their body. We really need to, because as we mentioned at the beginning, you may have 100 problems and you have good health, but once you have poor health, you don't have any other problems. You have one problem, and that's fixing your health. So what better way than to optimize your bio than by taking care of your physical structure? And when you find a place like MueveFlex, like our clinic, where we don't just say, oh, you have a stiff shoulder, let me stretch that out. Perfect, your shoulder's better, get out of here. No way. We'll ask you, well, you have a stiff shoulder, but what's been happening? Oh, no days off, huh? Oh, you've been moving into a new property, huh? Oh, okay. Oh, you're selling a current enterprise. Yeah, that could be stressful. Negotiating back and forth, blah, blah, blah. So maybe let's focus on a little bit more meditation, like a couple of the gurus say, what's vital for success and happiness? Meditation. And then the young, busy, bustling people say, well, what if I'm too busy to do meditation? Then the guru says, then you must meditate twice. Not just once a day. And it's again, it's mind-blowing, but it's so critical. So the same thing with your health. I would tell that person, don't give up. Be patient, persevere, get through the challenges, appreciate them, get all that value from sitting in the filth, as the money Terrans would say, and definitely take care of yourself. More important than anything else, take care of your body. Find somebody that truly cares. A couple of the principles at our office, and I tell my clients, ask yourself 3 questions before you want to do anything with our business, with me or anybody else for that matter. Number 1, does this person care? Do they really want to help you, or they just, want to run you through like another client? If the answer is yes, then keep going to the second one. The second one is this person qualified? Do they have the training? Did they just go through a couple of weeks certification? And let me tell you, even that could be okay, because if they really care and they really did well at that 2-week certification class, then you may still be good, okay? 2-week certification to do stretches, in my opinion, is not ideal, but it's the foundation, it's the basis. And then third question is, can you trust this person? If you were to give this person your credit card number, can you feel confident that they're not going to go crazy shopping? If you gave this person your time and you're laying face down, do you really feel safe there? If the answer is yes, that's the place for you. Mm-hmm. If the answer to any of those is no, then you might want to look somewhere else. But those are some of the things that I would say to that young entrepreneur, to that young business person that's, got their future ahead of him. And I think following that advice is going to turn out to be really, really rewarding and net them a lot of happiness.
Yeah, it wouldn't it be great if we could bottle wisdom?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That'd
Absolutely.
be amazing.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Bernal, thank you for this opportunity, this time. I'd mentioned half an hour is usually the amount we went over by quite a bit. It's okay. I really want this podcast to be digestible, and usually 45 minutes is sort of whatever. It doesn't matter. But the idea is, you've really shared a lot of wisdom. Unfortunately, we were kind of bottled today. but the idea of this podcast is to just, if you can take away one piece of wisdom from the podcast, that's
I love it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Muchas gracias.
Igualmente.